Immediately upon opening the program, the user is met with a nice and simple GUI mainframe, which acts as the parent class for the entire program. So clicking on this J button, it instantiates a login window that allows access only to the desired user. So let's input some correct credentials, me, incorrect. Get a J option pane saying so. So let's put in the correct credentials, test, and we click enter, and the chemicals object is instantiated with the default chemicals frame. Right here is an on-screen section which displays all the chemicals that currently need to be restocked, and since we have no stock files, then there's not going to be any in there, and this is reflected when we click on these J buttons, which displays you must add chemicals in using the edit chemicals button before viewing the table. So we can't access these displays until we have all of our stock files created. And all of these J buttons, they're in an expandable area which the user can select a chemical type to view, so these are all separated by their chemical types. And should the user want a wider variety or more specific chemical types, these can be easily accommodated with the inclusion of more J buttons and possibly more columns, but it's expandable for the future, so that's nice. So let's go ahead and add a chemical. So here we have a data entry window that allows the user to enter new chemicals with current amounts and a restock threshold. Let's go ahead and make hydrochloric acid, 2 molar, chemical type is a acid, restock threshold 2.5 liters, and then current amount 3 and liters, add. So that created an acid stock txt file, which this is the file format, and now we can access our acids. So here it is, and this is a nice table that all of these tables are separated by a type that display these individual chemicals, their names, their stock, their restock threshold, and then their unit type, and in this case also the molarity. So here we have this J table allows an alternative method of adding more and removing from the current chemicals that are already stored in the stock. So as you can see, only these 2 columns, amount and restock threshold, are editable. The rest of them are not, so they should be static. So let's go ahead and make the restock threshold, or the amount, 2.5, which matches the restock threshold, and that triggers a restock warning class, which returns a panel to be displayed upon the chemicals object. And as you can see, we have acids 2 molar. So if the current amount is at or less than the restock threshold, then it shall display on the chemicals restock. So let's go ahead and demonstrate another feature, which is an easy to add, an alternative method of adding a brand new chemical to the acids. So as you can see, there's no chemical type drop downs because it knows it's an acid. So let's go ahead and H2SO4 sulfuric acid, 3 molar, 1 liter, current amount 2 liters. Okay, there we go, and that's added, so it should also reflect in the acid stock. Boom. And now see, it's not going to show up there. However, if we drop it below the restock threshold, it should show up there. And here is the demonstration of the tables being separated by type, because we can't access any of these other types without having them created and edit chemicals first. So they're all separated by type, and now we got to add. So let's add in inorganic salt. Let's add in sodium chloride, good old salt. 0 molarity because it's not going to be in solution in this case. So let's make this restock threshold that, and grams, add, and there we go. So say we want to add in some in solution potassium hydroxide. Let's make it 1 molar and then 500, 450 and milliliters, add. Okay, so now we have one in solution, one not in solution. However, the molarity title or column always stays there. So let's go ahead and drop these both below the restock threshold, and as you can see, they're easily differentiated on this chemicals to restock by the fact that one of them has a molarity associated with it while the other one doesn't, so you can tell which ones are in solution and which ones aren't in solution. So let's go ahead and show an alternative method of removing chemicals. So let's remove some of the inorganic salt. So as you can see, we have dropped down many of our 2 chemicals. Let's remove, it said 450 milliliters available. Let's remove 250 and go to inorganic salts, and now there's 200. 450 minus 250 is 200. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out, and I'm going to use some sample data, and I'm going to prove that the file format is the same. So we have the same file format, we should be fine. So let's go ahead and copy paste this data in. Alright, test, and there we go. So Now we have the full program. This is what it'd be like with actual data inputted. So we have all of our individual JTables here. They're all in scroll panes. All of these are their own instantiated chemicals object. Well, actually, they're their own subclass of each chemicals object. There's an acids, inorganic salts, nitrates, metals, and kitchen. Those are all subclasses of the chemicals class, which is a subclass of the GUI class. So now we can view the dynamic design that allows it only uses the parameters that are required for its individual chemical type. So for instance, let's look at nitrates. Molarity is going to be associated with nitrates, so it's going to have a molarity column. However, if we look at metals, it does not have a molarity column. This is because the user requested that metals be only solid metals, no metal ions in solution, so there shouldn't be a molarity associated with them. Therefore, there's not going to be any molarity column. So it's dynamic to the type, so it only displays necessary information, keeping it nice and simple. So this product has a very user-friendly interface, and it easily allows the user to access and maintain the database. So one thing I want to mention real quick is that these all of the storage and these chemicals restock warning right here, these are all in scroll panes. So should the data exceed what is able to be shown, it will make a scroll bar which you can display all of the data. I'm going to go ahead and show that right here. Let's just copy paste this a bunch of times, and then acids, now we have a scroll bar, and then let's get rid of it. Scroll bar gone. So it's dynamic in the sense that it also adapts to the data list and data size. And then one final feature which is very useful in case of accidental deletion. Since these are all just text files, you can very easily copy paste, and now you have all your backups. So the program all in itself is extremely easy to use, very straightforward. Log in, enter. Now you're in here. 5 simple buttons to view all of your current amounts, and one panel that shows all the chemicals you need to restock, and then a nice and simple edit that you can remove or add a new chemical. Nice and simple. Let's just go ahead and add one final metal. Let's do zinc. Sure, zinc. And since there's no molarity associated with it, nice. Restock threshold 100, current amount 150 grams, add metals. As you can see, very straightforward. Even for someone that's not very technologically advanced, or they haven't had a lot of time with technology, it should be fairly simple to use. And this is very important because that's what the test user wanted.